The Pentagon has now opened the military's AI floodgates and handed out contracts worth up to $800 million, not to one company, but to Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Elon Musk's xAI. Each company will be eligible for up to $200 million to provide advanced AI capabilities for national security. And here's where it gets interesting. Musk's xAI, fresh off its infamous Mecha Hitler chatbot meltdown, is suddenly pitching itself as a patriotic choice, promising AI powerful enough to run in classified military systems. Meanwhile, Google, the same company whose employees once revolted against military AI, is now all in. And OpenAI, founded to keep AI safe for humanity, is quietly rewriting its policies to work with national security agencies. Even Anthropic, known for its focus on ethical AI, is in the mix, partnering with defense giants like Palantir to secure a piece of the action. This isn't just a tech deal, it's a turning point. The Pentagon is betting on AI to redefine warfare, outpace rivals like China, and even prepare for conflicts that may be fought more by algorithms and drones than by soldiers. But here's the dilemma. Does putting AI in charge of war make us safer, or does it lower the threshold for conflict, making war easier to start and harder to control? Firstly, AI is being used on the battlefield now. Military analysts estimate that AI-driven drones now account for up to 80% of battlefield casualties, and we are seeing huge use of it in the Russian-Ukraine war. The Ukrainian forces are even using an AI targeting system nicknamed Avengers, capable of identifying targets in just 2.2 seconds. Now, the American war makers, they've been watching all of this and see no reason to slow down their military-industrial complex efforts. Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks has launched a Project Replicator aiming to deploy thousands of autonomous drones in under 2 years. The US Air Force has already budgeted nearly $800 million for AI-powered Loyal Wingman jets. These are uncrewed fighters that fly alongside human pilots, follow commands instantly, and, if necessary, strike on their own. Now, by 2029, they're planning to spend $28 billion on them. Now, we're no doubt witnessing a shift. Wars fought increasingly by algorithms and machines, with humans pulling the strings from far away. And this isn't just the US. Israel's IDF has already battle-tested AI drones in Gaza and Lebanon, now being sold to the US Special Forces. Israeli company Xtend just landed a Pentagon contract for precision strikes, drones capable of operating indoors, navigating tight spaces autonomously, and delivering lethal payloads. But what's the crux of all of this? Who cares, right? Well, when you remove humans from the battlefield, you also remove human hesitation. The line between surgical strike and tragic mistake get razor thin. Also, AI developments could result in more wars, more death and destruction globally. The warring country best at AI will have no casualties, and the warring country or even victim country not good at AI will take all the losses, which doesn't exclude, by the way, civilians. Again, does putting AI in charge of war make us safer, or does it lower the threshold for conflict, making war easier to start and harder to control? In November 2023, Fatima, a grandmother in southern Lebanon, loaded her 3 children into her car. They weren't soldiers, they weren't fighters, just a family trying to escape clashes near the border. They drove slowly, hazard lights on, children visible in the rear seats, a scene of ordinary life in an extraordinary time, until something appeared above them. An AI-guided drone had them in their sights, but at this point, even Fatima didn't know if anyone was truly watching. Now, I'm going to tell you about a little bit more about this later on. So first and foremost, let's unpack the effect all of this has on the civilians, since they are the ones that are not part of these wars, and 9 times out of 10 do not want war. So we've got civilian risk and AI errors is the main crux of what I'm speaking of here. So firstly, we've got unpredictable AI behavior. The truth is, current AI, especially learning models, they hallucinate false information or act inappropriately if not carefully controlled. AIs might interpret data or context in novel situations since they lack true understanding or moral judgment. Now, in a national security setting, a rogue or confused AI could feed commanders false information or, worse, autonomously launch an attack on a misidentified target. So that's a huge thing already, unpredictable AI behavior. Secondly, we've got targeting errors and civilian harm. Now, one Israeli intelligence officer, he recounted an AI mistranslated an Arabic word. Now, just real quick, this Arabic word, it means grip in a weapons context, but it also means payment in another context. Now, the mistranslation, the leading analyst, it also almost caused the leading analyst to nearly flag innocent conversations about finances as terrorists plotting. In that case, a human fortunately caught the error in time, and in another instance, an AI system mistakenly associated over 1,000 school students with militants, simply because a spreadsheet of exam takers titled Finals was attached to their profiles. The algorithm had no contextual understanding and tagged these teenagers as potential threats. Could have been a huge problem there, of course. Third issue, a core principle of the laws of war is distinguishing civilians from combatants. In Ukraine, troops have started to distinguish themselves in civilian clothing or using civilian vehicles to avoid drone detection. It's quite smart. Now, the more warfare relies on sensor data and pattern matching, the more enemies will use decoys and deception to fool the algorithms. Now, a drone's AI might see a person in plain clothes and not realize they're actually a soldier, or conversely, see a weapon signature and fire even if that person has surrendered or is out of combat. If one side's AI can't reliably tell a civilian apart, the risk to non-combatants increases. Without very careful control, an AI system might end up violating international humanitarian law by not properly discriminating targets. And of course, we've got the lack of accountability. If an AI-assisted system commits a war crime, say an autonomous drone bombs a hospital by mistake, who's responsible? The human commander who deployed the system? The software developer? The machine itself? Well, it can't be because the machine can't be punished. I mean, this accountability gap deeply worries ethicists. Militaries often say a human will always be accountable, but as AI's autonomy grows, that becomes tricky. I mean, if decisions are made by a neural network's opaque logic, even the operators might not fully understand why it did what it did. Now, this complicates investigations of incidents and could undermine justice for victims. And lastly, we've got hacking and malfunction risks. AI systems are software, and that means they can be hacked. Cybersecurity experts have demonstrated how adding a small sticker can fool an AI into seeing something that isn't there. AI often relies on constant data streams, example, feeding false GPS data, so an autonomous munition strikes the wrong coordinates. Despite these dangers, the use of AI in warfare is only moving in one direction, and that's forward. AI arms race escalation is happening in all forms, and one is Project Replicator, which aims to field thousands of autonomous drones within the next 18 to 24 months, and the Air Force is planning $28 billion for AI-powered wingman jets. Then we've got the Pentagon budget and swarm warfare. The Pentagon's latest budget documents explicitly call for large and small undersea drones, flying drone swarms, and autonomous wingmen for jets, all enabled by AI. Witnesses say the car kept driving. No checkpoints, no soldiers, just a family in plain sight. The drone shadowed them for minutes, but still, no strike. Was a human monitoring the feed, hesitated to act? Or was the drone's AI autonomously tracking a target it thought that was a threat? And then, without warning, the drone drops 100 feet. The awarding of these major AI contracts signals that we've entered a new era of warfare, one where artificial intelligence is as strategically important as aircraft or satellites. Each country's adversaries are not standing still. Russia has been deploying loitering munitions and AI in electronic warfare. China is investing heavily in AI for command decisions and drone swarms of its own. The Pentagon contracts with OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and xAI highlight both the promise and peril of military AI. They could yield technologies that protect nations and reduce human suffering in war, or they could accelerate us into a destabilized world where AI systems heighten the risk of conflict and mistakes, which I believe is more likely than the former. So what happens when machines can make life and death decisions faster than we can think? Who is accountable when a civilian dies because of a mistake made by code and not a person? If war becomes efficient, automated, and bloodless on one side, does that make it more? There's 4 huge wars currently happening at the moment. Some shouldn't even be described as wars since they're just a clear genocide. You've got the Middle East terror, the conflict in Sudan, the Myanmar civil war, and the war in Eastern Europe. Now, if one of these sides had superior AI military technology and their opponent didn't, how likely are they to listen to diplomatic efforts? Some of these countries don't even care about the ICC or ICJ and only care about their end goal and have no problem with death and destruction. The only solution, it seems, is a ban on these AI technologies when it comes to military warfare, which is why many humanitarian organizations are calling for a ban on fully autonomous weapons that don't have human oversight. Now, given these dangers, many have called for international regulation on military AI. Over 30 countries, though not the US, UK, or Russia, have supported the idea of a ban on fully autonomous lethal weapons. Organizations like Human Rights Watch and the International Committee on the Red Cross have warned of losing meaningful. Thus far, the US and allies have instead proposed ethical guidelines. For example, NATO adopted a set of AI principles emphasizing responsibility and traceability. The US Department of Defense issued its own AI ethical principles in 2020. The US Department of Defense released a set of AI ethical principles saying military AI must be reliable, governable, and traceable. But the problem is, these aren't laws, they're guidelines. There's no watchdog, no penalty for violations, no requirement for independent audits. So let's be real, what actually needs to happen for there to be any real impact? So for any of these countries to take these AI, guidelines or whatever it is, seriously? I mean, given the huge amount of lives at stake, there needs to be actual legislation which countries are willing to enforce. Firstly, they could codify into law or implement defense regulations. So Congress could pass legislation requiring all military AI systems to undergo ethics compliance certification before deployment. Violations could trigger penalties, contract cancellations, or ban on use. Secondly, they could create an independent AI ethics oversight office. They could establish a neutral oversight body within or outside the Department of Defense with the power to audit AI systems, hold to rollouts, and investigate incidents like AI-caused civilian deaths. Similar to the Inspector General, but for AI. We could mandate ethical audits in AI procurement. Before the Pentagon purchases or deploys any AI systems, require a third-party ethics audit. They could assess things like, bias, explainability, override functionality, and just being able to trace everything. We could integrate these principles into the military training and the doctrines. So ethical use of AI should be embedded in the rules of engagement, not just white papers. Commanders and operators should be trained on when and how to override or challenge AI-driven decisions. And there needs to just be transparency overall, transparency requirements for contractors and anyone else involved. Force AI vendors such as OpenAI, Google, Palantir to disclose model risk, kill switch protocols, bias testing results, and AI decision logs during its live operations. And what should happen if a country breaks the law? To give these laws teeth, violations must have real consequences. And these could be in the form of sanctions or embargoes, international legal accountability, possibly through the ICC for war crimes involving unlawful AI use. Hopefully this time the ICC actually implement their laws when war crimes occur. Anyway, a new AI war crimes tribunal could be implemented. This could act if autonomous weapons cause unjust civilian harm. There could be blacklisting for military contracts. This is for private contractors and developers. There could be hefty fines or loss of security clearances. Public naming and shaming, especially effective for companies like Google or Microsoft with reputations to uphold. There could be court-martials or equivalent military justice processes if people knowingly deploy AI systems that violate the laws of war. When the dust settled, the truth emerged. A strike had hit Fatima's car. All four were killed instantly. No official admitted responsibility. Some reports suggest a human confirmed the strike. Others allege the AI's targeting lock triggered an automated chain. And the problem is, even investigators can't say for certain if it was a person or an algorithm that decided their fate. And that's the chilling reality of AI-driven warfare. If we can't even tell who pulled the trigger anymore, what does that mean for accountability and for the rest of us? Warfare isn't just a national issue, it's a global one. And if only the US follows ethical AI rules, while adversaries or allies don't, it creates an uneven and dangerous playing field. The solution? We need a global framework similar to the Geneva Conventions or nuclear non-proliferation treaties. We need laws that countries are willing to enforce.